came home after a 14-hour shift. My 6-year-old daughter was gone. The door to her room was open, her bed stripped, and her drawings ripped off the walls. My mother walked out of the kitchen, wiped her hands on a towel, and said 4 words that changed everything. We made the decision. And in that moment, I realized the people I had sacrificed everything for, my savings, my credit, my career, had just sacrificed my child. This is what happened, and this is how I took it all back. My name is not important. What matters is what they did, and what I did after. It starts 2 years ago. I was a nurse, single mother, 1 daughter, I'll call her Lily, 6 years old, brown curls, gap-toothed smile, the kind of kid who narrates her own life out loud. And now Lily is putting on her shoes, and now Lily is ready. She was the best thing I ever did, and the hardest. I was working part-time at a clinic near the house. The schedule wasn't glamorous, but it fit. I could pick Lily up from daycare on time. I could make dinner without burning it. I could sit on the floor with her at bedtime and read the same book 4 times without wanting to scream. Okay, sometimes I wanted to scream, but I was there. I was present. That was enough. And then the offer came. A senior nursing position at a regional hospital 40 minutes away. The kind of role you don't get twice. The pay was almost double. The hours were brutal. Doubles, night shifts, weekends. The kind of schedule that looks incredible on a resume and slowly hollows you out in real life. My first instinct was no. I mentioned it to my parents, casually, like I was thinking out loud, not asking for help, just processing. And that's when something shifted. Because before that conversation, my parents had been lukewarm about Lily at best. Not cruel, never cruel out loud, just distant, like she was a guest who stayed too long. My mother would smile at her the way you smile at someone else's child in a grocery store. Polite, contained. And then, overnight, they flipped. My mother called me the next morning, breathless. "You have to take it, Sarah. We'll watch Lily. We're retired. We have the space. You can't pass this up." My father nodded along in the background like he was on cue. Even my sister Diane, 2 years younger, still living at home at 28, running a lifestyle brand from her bedroom, even she chimed in. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You'd be crazy to say no." It was suspicious, but I wanted to believe it. So I said yes. Here's what they didn't tell me right away. My parents were drowning. Not quietly, not manageable, drowning. They owed roughly $65,000 in unsecured debt, credit cards, personal loans, things they never mentioned. They were about $18,000 behind on the mortgage and property taxes. Their credit was destroyed. They couldn't refinance. They couldn't borrow. They couldn't sell the house without losing everything they owed. And my job, my stable, well-paying, newly promoted job, that was their lifeline. A week after I accepted the position, my mother sat me down at the kitchen table with a folder. "We need you to sign a few things," she said. I asked, "What things?" She smiled the way people smile when they're about to ask you to do something uncomfortable. "It's just paperwork, to protect the house. We need it in your name, just temporarily," my father added. "Your credit is good. Ours isn't." Diane was leaning against the counter, arms crossed, nodding like this was the most logical thing in the world. "It's a formality," she said. A formality. They wanted me to put the house in my name, to absorb the liability, to carry the debt on my credit, to sign documents I barely understood. And they wanted me to do it while believing it was nothing. I didn't like it. Every instinct I had was screaming. But I also couldn't watch them lose the house. Not the house I grew up in. Not while they were offering to raise my daughter while I rebuilt my life. So I swallowed it. I put in about $22,000 of my own savings as a cushion. I took on a monthly mortgage payment of roughly $2,300 in my name. I signed everything they put in front of me, and the house was transferred into my name. Just a formality. For a while, it worked. They watched Lily. I worked. She adjusted. She drew pictures of Grandma's kitchen and taped them to the fridge. She called my father Papa and followed him around the yard like a shadow. I thought, maybe this is okay. Maybe they changed. Maybe Lily is the reason. And then the paperwork cleared. The house was safe. The debt was under control. And it was like a switch flipped. Overnight, I became the problem. Suddenly, I was never here. Suddenly, my hours were irresponsible. Suddenly, Lily was too loud, too much, too present. My mother started making comments. She's a lot of energy. My father would sigh when Lily laughed too hard at dinner. And Diane? Diane was the loudest. She needed quiet for her content. She needed the house to look clean for her brand. She needed space. She needed an office, a studio. And Lily, 6 years old, was standing in the way of all of it. The comments got sharper. There is a dad, you know. Why isn't she with him more? You can't expect us to do this forever. Lily's father, I'll call him Mark, had been out of the picture since before she was born. He wasn't cruel. He was simply absent. A ghost with a phone number. He'd show up twice a year, take a photo with Lily like proof of concept, and disappear again. We never went to court. Not because I didn't believe in it, because you can't negotiate custody with someone who treats fatherhood like an optional subscription he forgot to cancel. So when my family started suggesting Mark, I didn't take it seriously. I thought it was pressure. I thought it was manipulation. I thought it was just words. I was wrong. I came home on a Thursday, 10:47 in the morning. I'd worked a double, 14 hours straight. I smelled like antiseptic and bad coffee. My body felt like it had been reassembled by someone who lost the instructions halfway through. All I wanted was 2 hours of sleep, then the whole afternoon with Lily. That was the plan. I stepped inside and something was wrong. Not dramatic wrong, quiet wrong. The kind of wrong that lives in the details. The house smelled like coffee and maple syrup, but the kitchen was too clean. My mother's voice floated from the living room, bright, performative, the tone she uses when she's managing a situation. I walked toward Lily's room without saying hello. The door was open. I pushed it wider and stopped. The room had been dismantled. Not destroyed. Dismantled. Carefully, methodically. Like someone had planned it. Lily's bed was stripped to the mattress. Her blanket, the one she slept with every single night, the one she cried if she couldn't find, was folded and shoved into a basket like it was laundry. Her stuffed rabbit was on the dresser, facing the wall. Her drawings were gone. Every single one. Ripped off and stacked in a pile. Painter's tape lined the baseboards. A measuring tape was stretched across the floor. And on the desk sat a stack of printed photos. All beige, all white, all aggressively adult. Mood board photos. This wasn't cleaning. This was repurposing. I turned in a slow circle. Lily? Nothing. I checked the closet. Her backpack was gone. I walked back into the hallway. My mother was standing at the end of it, dish towel in hand, my father behind her, arms crossed. Diane was leaning against the wall, pretending to look at her phone. I kept my voice flat. Where is Lily? My mother smiled. Not warm, practiced. We talked about this. Where is my daughter? My father uncrossed his arms. It's been decided. Decided by who? My mother lifted her chin. By us. We voted. You don't get a say. The hallway went quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet that means something just broke and nobody wants to be the first to admit it. I stared at her. You voted. About my child. My mother nodded like she was explaining something obvious to someone slow. You're never here, Sarah. You work constantly. Lily needs stability. And you decided that stability is… what? Diane stepped forward. Casual. Confident. Like she was presenting a business plan. She's with Mark. His mother offered to help. My blood went cold. Not angry cold. Scared cold. The kind of cold that starts in your chest and spreads outward until your fingertips tingle. Mark, I repeated. His mother. Diane didn't flinch. She called us last week. She said she'd take Lily if we needed. I looked from Diane to my mother, to my father. 3 people I had given everything to. 3 people who had just handed my 6-year-old daughter to a man who had never once put her to bed. My mother read my face and kept talking, faster now, layering justification on justification like she was building a wall. You can't have it both ways, Sarah. You wanted the career. You wanted the promotion. You can't have that and be a full-time mother. And besides, Diane added, glancing down the hallway toward Lily's stripped room, we need that space. I looked at her. You need it. I work from home now. I need an office, a studio. I can't film with a child running around the house. I felt something settle inside me. Cold. Clear. Not anger, not yet. Something sharper than anger. Something that felt like a door closing. I took a breath. Then I turned and walked to the bathroom. Not because I was running, because if I stayed in that hallway, I would say something that would set the entire house on fire. And I needed that fire later, when it would matter more. I locked the door. I looked at myself in the mirror. Tired eyes, pale skin, the face of a woman who had spent years being reasonable with unreasonable people. I put both hands on the sink, breathed. In, out. In, out. Then I unlocked the door and walked back out. They were still talking, still justifying, still acting like a committee that had just made a difficult but necessary decision. I walked toward them, calm, steady, different, and I said one sentence. I want all of you out of my house within 30 days. The hallway went so still I could hear the refrigerator hum. My mother blinked. My father's mouth opened and closed. Diane's confident expression shattered like glass on concrete. What? My mother said. What are you talking about? I didn't repeat myself. I didn't explain. I walked to my room, pulled the folder from the bottom drawer of my dresser, the one with all the paperwork, the one that proved what was just a formality, and slid it into my bag. Then I walked back out. They were standing in the hallway like statues. I'll be sending legal paperwork, I said. I want you out. My mother's face went white. Not angry white, afraid white. My father started to speak. I didn't wait. I walked out the front door. No yelling, no scene, no dramatic exit, just a clean, quiet departure. And behind me, I heard the scramble begin. In the car, my hands were steady on the wheel. My heart was not. I called Mark. No answer. Voicemail. I called again. Nothing. Of course. I called his mother, Susan. She picked up on the first ring. Her voice was cold, not hostile, but closed, like a door that had already been shut. Hannah, she said, using my real name, not the one I use in this story, because in the moment, there was no script. Do you know where Lily is? I asked. My parents said she's with Mark. Mark isn't here, Susan said. She's with us. My stomach dropped. Is she okay? She's safe. A pause. Then, but you should know, she was upset when she arrived. Very upset. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. I'm coming. You should, Susan said. and for the first time, something in her voice cracked. Not softened exactly, but shifted, like she was seeing something she hadn't expected to see. I drove to their house with my jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. When I got there, I knocked like I was trying to knock the lie straight out of the door. Susan opened it a crack, not welcoming, measuring. I didn't bother with pleasantries. "Where is she?" Susan studied me for a moment. The scrubs, the exhaustion, the look of someone who had just been running on pure adrenaline for the last 30 minutes. Then she stepped aside. "Come in." Lily was sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of something warm in front of her. Her shoulders were pulled up toward her ears. Her hands were wrapped around the cup like it was the only thing holding her in place. She looked small, smaller than I remembered. Not because she'd shrunk, because something had made her try to disappear. "Lily?" I said softly. Her eyes lifted to mine. She didn't run. She didn't smile. She just stared, like she was waiting to find out if I was real. I crossed the room and knelt beside her. "Hi, baby." I wrapped my arms around her. She didn't hug me back. Not at first. She stayed rigid, arms at her sides, like she didn't trust the moment to last. My chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. I pulled back just enough to see her face. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying the way kids cry when they're upset. She was crying the way kids cry when they've already run out of tears and are just sitting in the wreckage. Then her voice came out, small, broken, barely above a whisper. "Grandma said you didn't want me." The world stopped. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I looked up at Susan, who was standing in the doorway with her husband, David. They were watching with guarded expressions, not hostile, but careful, like they were waiting to see what kind of mother I actually was. I turned back to Lily. "Honey," I said, and my voice broke on the word. She lied. Lily's lip trembled. "She said you told them. She said you were tired of me." My eyes burned. I took her face in my hands, gently, like she was made of something that could shatter. "Listen to me," I said. "I came home this morning, and you weren't there, and I drove as fast as I could to find you, because there is nothing, nothing in this world that I want more than you." Her shoulders shook. Then, slowly, her arms lifted. They wrapped around my neck. Not tight, not instantly, but real. And I held her like the ground had opened up, and I was the only thing keeping her from falling through. Susan and David let me stay for an hour, not out of warmth, out of something quieter, a kind of cautious fairness. Before I left, David pulled me aside.
"We didn't know,"
he said. His voice was low, serious.
"Your parents told us you wanted this, that it was your idea."
I looked at him. It wasn't. He nodded once.
"We can see that now."
Susan appeared in the hallway behind him. "She's a good kid," she said. It was the closest thing to an olive branch she'd offered. "I know," I said. And then I took my daughter and I left. I didn't take Lily back to the house. Not after what I'd seen in her room. Not after what my mother had told her. I drove to a hotel. The kind of place designed to be emotionally forgettable. Beige walls, neutral carpet, a bed that didn't belong to anyone. Lily climbed onto it with her shoes still on and sat very still, staring at the TV without turning it on. I sat beside her. "Okay," I said quietly. "New plan." She looked at me. "Are we safe?" That question hit me like a physical blow. I took her hand. "Yes," I said. "We're safe." And then I did what nurses do when everything is falling apart. I started handling it. Food, bath, clean pajamas, a warm drink, her favorite show on the small hotel TV. I sat with my hand on her back while she fell asleep, curled against my side like she was afraid I'd disappear. I didn't tell her about what was coming. I didn't load her with adult fear. I just kept saying the only thing that mattered. You're with me. I've got you. No one moves you again. When she was asleep, I looked at my phone. 17 missed calls. Mom, Dad, Diane. Texts stacking up like accusations. Demanding, angry, confused. I didn't respond to a single one. Instead, the next morning, I called a lawyer. His name was Mr. Harrison. He had the calm, seasoned face of a man who had seen decades of family chaos walk through his door and had stopped being surprised by any of it. I sat across from his desk and slid the folder toward him. Every document I had signed, every piece of paperwork that had transferred the house into my name. He flipped through them slowly, reading, not skimming. When he finished, he looked up. "The house is legally yours," he said. Something in my chest loosened. A knot I'd been carrying for 2 years without realizing how tight it had become.
"You can evict them," he continued.
"I'll draft the letters and initiate the process." I nodded. "Do it." He picked up his pen. "They'll fight it." I let out a short, dry laugh. They fought harder to vote my daughter out. At least this time their anger comes with an official stamp. Mr. Harrison wrote something down and didn't smile, but something in his expression suggested he understood exactly what I meant. 2 days later, Lily was back in school. Not magically healed, not instantly okay, but back in routine, back in the world. And I was back at the hospital, trying to function like my life wasn't quietly detonating in the background. I was at the nurse's station on a Tuesday afternoon when I heard my name. Not a colleague's voice, a demanding voice. I turned. My mother and father were standing in the lobby, holding copies of the eviction papers, their faces red with fury. My mother's hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. They marched toward the desk and started raising their voices. Patients turned. Staff tensed. A security guard shifted his weight. I stepped forward before it became a scene. 5 minutes, I said. Clipped, controlled. "That's what you get," my mother hissed. "Oh, now you have limits?" I led them to a side corridor, close enough that staff could see me, far enough that my unit didn't have to witness it. My father shoved the papers toward me. "Explain this." My mother's voice climbed. "How dare you? How dare you send lawyers after your own parents?" My father's jaw was tight. "You scammed us. You stole our house." I looked at him, steady, the way I look at a patient who is panicking and needs someone to not panic with them. "I stole it," I said. "Let me remind you how this started." I laid it out. All of it. The $65,000 in unsecured debt, the $18,000 behind on the mortgage, the destroyed credit, the desperate pitch to move me in, the documents they'd handed me like they were nothing, the savings I'd put up, the monthly payment I'd taken on, the promises they'd made and the ones they'd broken. My mother's face cycled through expressions: fury, then guilt, then something harder, defensiveness. "We did what was necessary," she said. "You did what was convenient," I said. "For yourselves, for Diane's studio, for your comfort." I paused. Let that land. "And you lied to my daughter. You told a 6-year-old girl that her mother didn't want her, so that you could turn her bedroom into a content studio." The corridor went very quiet. My father looked away. My mother's jaw tightened. Diane wasn't there, but I could feel her presence in the room anyway, in every decision they'd made, in every justification they'd offered. "You don't get access to Lily," I said. "Not now. Not after this." My mother started to speak. I held up my hand. 5 minutes, I said. "You're done." I turned and nodded to the security guard who had been watching from the end of the hall with the patient, professional expression of someone who had seen this exact scene before. They were escorted out, still talking, still trying to pull me back into the role they'd written for me, but that role was gone. I watched them disappear through the lobby doors, heart pounding, hands shaking, spine straight, because power isn't loud, power is leaving. And as I turned back toward my unit, one thought settled into place, clean and clear and final. They thought they could vote my daughter out of this family. I decided to vote them out instead. A month later, they were gone. Not dramatically, not with a fight at the door, just gone. Packed up and moved into a 2-bedroom rental across town. Diane went with them, of course, still freeloading, still running her lifestyle brand from a bedroom, still convinced the world owed her an audience. I took a new position at a smaller clinic. Part-time, stable hours, no doubles. The kind of schedule that actually fits a life with a child in it. The house held too many memories to live in, so I rented it out. About $2,800 a month. Enough to live comfortably on part-time pay. Enough to cover childcare when I needed it. And enough to finally, quietly, start breathing again. I went completely no contact. No calls, no texts, no just checking in. I heard through a cousin that they were struggling in the rental, that Diane was still there, that the pension wasn't stretching the way they'd hoped. I didn't feel sorry for them. I felt something quieter than that. Something like clarity. Lily recovered. Not in a straight line, not overnight, but slowly. The way kids recover when someone finally stops moving them around and starts staying still. She slept through the night again. She started laughing without checking my face first to make sure it was okay. She started trusting that when I said, "I'll be here," I meant it. And there was one thing I didn't expect. I stayed in contact with Susan and David, Mark's parents. Not because of Mark, in spite of him. They didn't defend him. They didn't excuse him. They simply showed up, quietly, consistently, every week, and spent time with Lily. Not as grandparents trying to earn a role, just as people who had seen a child in distress and decided she deserved better. Lily likes their house. She likes Susan's cooking. She likes the way David reads to her, slow, funny, like the story is the most important thing in the world. And for now, that's enough. So here's what I want to know. Did I go too far? Did I steal from my own parents? Was I right to evict them and keep the property that I legally own? The property I paid for with my own savings and my own credit? Or did I just finally do what I should have done 2 years ago? Think about it, and let me know.